All right, guys, welcome to our first GT Motor Cars podcast. I'm JR, founder of GT Motor Cars, here with one of my best friends, longtime friends, Philip Richter. Philip and I met at the Revs Institute about 10 years ago.
Has it been that long?
Been that long. We were both first timers at Revs, both from Connecticut.
And at Mr. Collier's table.
Yeah, with Mr. and Mrs. Collier.
Yep.
They made us mix and mingle, and all first timers, and wow, here we are 10 years later. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Both
Who would have thought prices would be doing what they're doing?
Oh my God, we'll get to that in a minute, but Mecum and RM, I mean, unbelievable. Talk about almost $500 million in sales in 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, BAT just keeps selling tons of cars in the background.
Yeah, so
every day.
A little bit about myself. I founded GT Motor Cars back in 2014. Worked investment banking, corporate finance. Most of you know I grew up around cars, restoring Corvettes with my dad, judging them. As a young kid, I was the youngest Corvette judge at a national level, then CRS and Bloomington Gold at 7 years old. And it's funny, I joked with Dana Mecum last week that he has known me since I was a kid.
I think you're the only guy at this level in the collector car world that has a CFA.
Yeah, I think you could probably say that. So yeah, so it's
that's a degree we hold dear in our firm.
Yes.
We have a lot of CFAs in Brook, and it's important. And I bet it's helped you thinking about.
It is. It gives me a whole different perspective to analyze cars, prices. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an asset class. Whether people want to say it or not, it's an alternative asset class.
Oh, I think that ship sailed.
Oh yeah, it has.
I mean, forget about the Enzo last week in the Vico, but like, it's an asset class.
Yeah, it really is.
I see it at my firm with our clients. They consider it on their balance sheet as legitimate.
When you and I met, would you have ever thought? I mean, look, you've been into cars and you have a portfolio company, so you know you have a investment firm. Would you ever think that we were going to be talking about collector cars
as
on someone's balance sheet?
As a legitimate asset category next to gold, next to hedge funds, next to fixed income and credit. No, but that's the truth. Yeah. That's where we are.
Yeah. So
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of these cars are analog works of art that we're never going to see again. No. As the automobile becomes an appliance, right? These hand-built V12s, manual transmissions, all these things are not really coming back, although I bet some manufacturers do go back to manual transmissions.
Correct.
V12s.
Yeah, no, and you know,
push back in EVs.
From what I'm hearing through a friend of mine from Ferrari there, that it sounds like they will do maybe the SP4, maybe a manual. So that would be interesting. That car would be unbelievable. You'd have people lined up for days to get that car.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
I mean, Porsche.
Well, I mean, look what's happening in the market, right? Anything that's gated 6 feet, like an Audi R8 that's gated versus not gated.
Yeah.
It's like a $60,000 difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And look at Porsche. They threatened to get rid of the manual. Still there.
Yeah.
So the demand is for it.
Yeah.
So just give a little bit of background about yourself, and people know who I am, what I do, and just a little bit about what you do and the Tour Invitational.
So JR and I have a great relationship because he's so embedded in the car world. I'm tangentially in the car world because I have a passion for cars. I'm on the board of the Revs Institute. I'm on the board of the Malcolm Prey Foundation, which are two, highly focused.
Malcolm Prey, for those of you who don't know, was a great car collector, big car collector, a lot of pre-war stuff. Owned car dealerships from Connecticut. So
he was actually really the first standalone Porsche Audi VW dealer.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow.
No, pretty much there was 2 or 3.
Yeah.
He was early on. So it's a great. JR and I have these conversations just every day about what's going on in the market. We talk on the phone all the time because I sit more on the equity, credit, fixed income side in the investing world. Brook Wealth Management is a firm that invests capital for families, foundations, endowments. We have a lot of clients in the car space, so it's super interesting to hear what they're doing with their car portfolios and so forth. But it's I think this podcast will become even more interesting as the weeks go by because of the understanding and the perspectives we have from our side on traditional investing and what's going on. I mean, like, let's level set right now, right? Gold's at 5,000, right? The S&P's at 7,000.
Just crossed $7,000
today.
We're talking today.
Debt, the U.S. balance sheet, our debt is over $38 trillion. We've got to refinance $10 trillion this year.
With
the
a T.
12 months.
Trillion.
With a T. A trillion's 1,000 billion, in case anyone's like trying to remember, right? It's sort of a nonsensical number that doesn't mean anything.
in Wall Street during the financial crisis. Never heard the word a trillion being thrown around
Ever.
before. Today we talk about a trillion.
Like it's.
So is that really does that really tell us that how far the dollar has devalued?
I
think
think
we're
so.
talking about
I
a
mean,
trillion.
you know, and this is not a negative statement, it's just a fact, right? We've been on a money printing binge since 2008, right? We printed a lot of money to get us out of, which was potentially a total abyss, cliff for the world,
Yeah.
an economic cliff. So the authorities did what they had to do, but we never stopped,
No.
right? We kept interest rates at zero up until right before COVID, and through COVID, we even printed more money. So COVID was actually the next level. We believe at our firm that kind of January 2020, there were real problems. China was slowing down a lot. Europe was at stall speed. The US's balance sheet was really over leveraged, and we weren't seeing the growth. And then COVID came, right? Which ironically turbocharged growth after COVID because of the lockdown.
Correct.
So we sort of had this
We
in a
pulled forward
regular period.
We pulled forward a lot of demand. Yeah.
That's right. We pulled forward a lot of demand.
Yeah.
So, you know, what we're seeing now, you know, the government, I want to say it took us 232 years as a country to get to $10 trillion of debt, and we're adding $1 trillion like that to our debt pile now.
Yeah.
So 232 years, call it 250 years, and now it's just $1 trillion, $1 trillion, $1 trillion. And so there's no end in sight of that, so we don't know what that means. I mean, it may partially explain gold at over 5,000 ounce. It may also partially explain this wild outcome at Mecum. Now, it was a great car.
Why
That's not
Enzo
just
sold for $17 million.
But it was not just Enzo. It had special, factory special equipment. It was yellow, one owner, 650 miles. Like you said last night when we were talking, like the tool roll, the leather, like everything hermetically sealed car, right?
Yeah.
But still, I mean, would you rather have an F1 or an Enzo?
You know, you and I just had this conversation, and I just had this conversation with some of our investors. You know, and at this price level, an F1 is really attractive, and I'm going with an F1 over an Enzo. As much as I believe Ferrari red, I'm going with an F1.
Now, what's interesting to me, like, look, I'm not an expert here. You live and breathe this, but looking at the auction results at Mecum, there was another Enzo that sold for like $6 million above estimate, right?
Yeah.
That car went for like 11.
That was a Rosso Dino, one of one, so that belonged to, it's a one-owner car as well.
Yeah.
Owned by one of the co-owners of Newport Beach. There were two co-owners. We owned the silver Enzo that the other co-owner had owned, and I did not see that Rosso Dino car do what it did, but you know, the power of the auction house that I can't replicate here in a store is urgency, because
and instant market. It's the market that moment.
Exactly, and the bidders know they have 90 seconds to make up their mind. Yeah. Where at a store, they'll pontificate for days. They'll talk to their 10 wife. Opinions, they get 20, 10 people, they get 20 opinions. Yeah. There's a lot of back and forth. But when it's on the block, they know it's
so let's talk about this provenance thing, because for me, Miles Collier has been a huge influence in my collecting life. And Miles is a huge proponent, believer in provenance. Like, provenance matters. Like that stain on the seat from an ice cream cone in a Duesenberg is actually part of the car's history.
It's part of the story.
And so today we saw the Ferrari race car get auctioned in Paris at Retromobile. You have a car here, similar car, almost exact same car, but this car has like race provenance, like Schumacher. So let's talk about did these two Enzo auctions go off the charts because they were one-owner cars out of the Bachmann collection? Like, how much does all that matter?
I'm going to say a lot of it, provenance is a lot of it, yes. So, the Bachmans were, Phil and Martha, great collectors. I judged with their son before. I mean, definitely, and, embedded in Ferrari lore. They had a lot of these cars they owned from new. And, it's one thing, as you know, having multiple cars, to have a collection and just have them stored. Yeah. It's a lot of work. I mean, just outside of the maintenance.
Yeah, they're deteriorating assets.
Correct. You have horses and you have cars. So
horses are. It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with the cars,
horse or an eating horse. It's
correct.
a similar situation.
The only difference is the horses you ride are breathing, and you have to feed them. Yeah. But with the cars, you do have to maintain them. People think put them on a battery tender and leave them and forget it.
No.
They have to be started. They have to be maintained. Yeah. And they have to be really climate controlled. So, but with the Bachmann cars, I was crawling it, in and around them. And,
hermetically sealed.
Hermetically sealed.
Like, those cars were perfect.
That knows, like, 280 GTL for me is like one of my favorite cars. Yeah. And looking at that car, it's like you took a time machine and went back to 1984 as it rolled off the assembly line. Like, the bushings and the control arms were like
Perfect.
soft and new.
Yeah.
You know, the paint
You
on
don't
the
see that.
chassis, the seats, nothing was dry, you know. Then outside of the car, I think I told you, the records that they collected and stored and cataloged properly.
Yeah.
Every car had a
So
binder.
what you're saying, JR, is that even at the top end of the market, let's just take a 288 GTO, right? Provenance, condition, ownership, right? You could have two cars. You could have a great GTO that maybe has two owners.
Correct.
Okay, it was driven once in a while, car shows sunny, and then you've got that level car. So the gap, the valuation
the
gap
delta's huge.
is huge.
Delta's big, yeah.
And so do you think that trend is gonna accelerate?
It will, and I've seen it before.
Because these cars are just getting older.
Correct, and
Right.
I've seen it before with muscle cars. I mean, I grew up around Corvettes and Shelbys and muscle cars, and you saw it. Cars that were unrestored, like that's one thing I tell people, the Corvette market was so far ahead. The Corvette judging process was a light years and decades ahead of any other mark.
Bloomington Grove,
Yeah,
all that.
Bloomington Gold, NCRS, they were doing preservation judging in the 90s.
Right.
Hell,
When
we
you were a
just
kid.
got into it a decade ago, because I was a kid, you know,
Yeah.
it feels like yesterday, but yeah, we
Yeah.
were analyzing like head markings on bolts and.
Right, or an original toolkit that hasn't been
Correct.
used.
So,
Yeah.
a car is only original once.
Yeah.
And we've looked at things like in the muscle car world, there was three pillars. You had the car itself, you had the drivetrain, and paperwork. So, the car itself, 33%, original born with drivetrain, okay, which is now people are recognizing that in the Ferrari world.
It matters.
It matters, yeah, that's 33% of the value, and the paperwork, it's a third of the value.
Yeah.
And that stuff is when the experts are long dead and gone, and 100 years from now,
Right.
you can't argue with that.
Now, what you're saying though is like, it doesn't have to be like John Travolta owned the car.
No.
But one owner
Exactly.
is key.
One owner's key.
Right, it doesn't have to be a famous person to have that, to hold that value.
Correct.
Yeah.
So just going to the Bachmann paperwork, I was looking at the 288 paperwork.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the letter from Ferrari to the dealer saying, pick one of your top clients that you think would be best suited for this 288 GTO.
Yeah.
And it talked about the deposit schedule, the payment schedule, and then had the order sheet history, and then Phil had ordered air conditioning. He initially ordered the red inserts in the seats and power windows.
Yeah.
Well, months later, he changed his mind to have all black leather. So in his
Is it like scratched out?
yeah,
like,
there's a letter
Yeah.
from him.
Yeah.
There's no email back then.
Yeah,
So
all
there's
analog.
there's a letter to the dealer from Mr. Bachman saying, please change the seats to black leather. Then there's a change order from the Ferrari dealership to Ferrari, and there's an assembly line build sheet that talks about the change order. So that stuff tells a story.
Yeah. So the lesson here, I think, is that gap. If you can afford to buy the best car with the best provenance, with all the records, with one owner, and you have that,
Agreed.
that is like in an investment portfolio.
That's a AAA investment.
Right. That's a AAA
Yeah.
investment. That's something that's bomb-proof. I mean, yes, the market could go down.
Yes.
These cars will go down. 1989, 1991 was a tough time in this business,
Correct.
right? You saw Daytonas plunge, and
Yeah.
then it became Pontiacs,
Yeah.
right? But quality is always quality, right? We in the investing world, when we talk about quality, like Jeremy Grantham up at GMO, very famous investment house, they run a fund called the Quality Fund, right? Defined by constant dividend growth, balance sheets of steel, incredible track record of returning money to shareholders through buybacks, dividend, or great, reinvesting cash flows in acquisitions or R&D, right? Same thing.
Correct.
It's kind of all the same thing. Quality is quality no matter what.
And I tell our clients too, even in a downward or sideways market, you can always sell a great quality car. If you need to sell a car
Yes.
to get liquidity,
Right.
You could always sell the best example.
Yes.
But I tell people in these markets like this, rising tide lifts all boats.
Right.
Not all
Fringe,
cars.
if something's on the fringe.
Not all cars are created equal.
Yeah.
And some people are very price sensitive. And I said, look, if you're spending $5 or $6 million, chances are you could spend 7 or 8. Get the better example, because when you do want to sell that car, there will always be a bid for it.
So there's another thing at work here too, which I think we should talk about, which is the time value. So these cars are just getting older.
Correct.
Right. So once a car's been painted, like that Enzo at Pebble that sold 2 years ago, that they've been painted.
Correct.
Right. Like you can't undo that.
No, you can't undo paperwork.
Now, if an Enzo was like the Bachmann car and it continues to be maintained, its lead ahead of those other cars, doubles, triples, like a fast racehorse,
Correct.
as the decades go on, because it has that and it will maintain
Yes.
that, right? So the other cars have been painted, they've had, different accessories. Like,
Yeah.
we see this in the pre-war world where people put accessories on cars that weren't
Well, and
original,
you know
right?
what, I'm talking about, you and I talked about that yesterday a little bit. Selling, F40s, 288s, they're, 288s 42 years old, the F40 is almost 40 years old. It's interesting today, people will call and ask about paintwork. Is it painted, is there any paintwork?
Right. 40-year-old car.
A 40-year-old car.
There's
So,
probably gonna be paintwork.
now, look, on a sub 10,000 kilometer car, I'd say, you really want to try to find one is a little bit of paintwork. And anybody that knows Ferrari well, every Ferrari has paintwork, especially that came to the US. I mean, you see assembly line photos. Once the car was completed, you'll see photos of the car with like newspaper taped
Well,
around
in
with
the
blended color.
60s, Enzo would change the headlights on a car, it was a 65, he'd make it a 66 and sell it as a 66,
Correct.
right? I mean, Luigi Canetti would be like, well, it was a 65, it was leftover, we're selling it as a 66, right?
But where I was going was, people will call and they immediately get turned off, you say paintwork.
Yep.
So I brought this up to a couple collectors and said, at what point in the near future do collectors accept an F40 restoration, a 288 restoration? Because cars that were driven are going to be restored. And look,
Sure,
288s back then were not really sold in the US, right? Mostly in Europe.
They also
Europeans
were-
drove their cars.
But they also were kind of just cars. I mean, yes, they were special.
Correct.
But back then, I remember when the 288 came out, everyone's like, oh, it's a Magnum PI 308 with fender flares.
And that was an
No, that was certainly not the
$85,000
truth.
car when it first came out.
Right.
Yeah.
So your present value, not $85,000 in 1985, it's still not a lunatic car. It wasn't a Pagani.
No,
It
correct.
wasn't a Huayra.
No.
Right. It was affordable to the really wealthy, and they drove them.
Yeah. So,
So-
at what point do we, like I said to people, look, go back to 1990, right? A 275, a Daytona, a Packard, they were restored.
Yeah, for sure. They
So-
had to be.
If you said to someone, I have an unrestored car, oh no, I want to restore it. So I feel like there's a balance.
Now, what about the other side of this? And again, this is what, if Miles, we'll get Miles on the show.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. But if Miles were here, he might say, I want the car with the ice cream stain on the seat. I want the car that has dents in it that wasn't painted. Like at Revs Institute, we have all these archives going back to the 30s of period cars in racing, when they were racing. And you get people who are looking at the cars now to restore them or build their history platform. And they can tell from a picture that was taken in 1947 that the car had a dent in the right quarter panel and it's still there.
Correct.
That's kind of cool.
Well,
You don't want to erase
No.
that.
Well, I think the last Revs Institute we were at, right just before COVID, they really talked about the over restoration, like in the 90s,
Yes.
2000s, it was like, make it as
Oh, I mean-
sexy and shiny as possible, right? Like,
Well-
high gloss everywhere, loads of clear coat, lots of depth.
Look, you can't believe this happened, but this truly happened. Like 30s Packards, when they restored them after the war in like the 50s, they would take the build plate off the firewall and rip it off and replace it with a new one that had proper font and redone.
Wow.
And it's
Did
like,
not know
you've
that, yeah.
lost, like, the plate is like
That's-
original to
yeah.
the car. Why would you, it got thrown in the dumpster.
Wow.
So that happened, like over restoration is a thing.
So now it's like, it's like, okay, look, they were built by factory assembly workers, human beings, not robots, no AI back then.
Yeah.
Let's duplicate the imperfections that they had to make it as authentic as
Like
possible.
overspray.
Correct, again, we did this in the Corvette world, the Shelby world, 30 years ago. And the European world was like, oh, let's make it as pretty as possible. Where now you're starting to see a Pebble, on 300 SLs and everything else. Let's make the paint dull.
Yeah.
Let's have texture. Like, this is where I feel like it's going.
So
Miles
it
said-
comes down to authenticity.
Authenticity. Correct.
So shifting gears here a second, I am fascinated by what's going on at Porsche. Have you been following the situation?
A little
I'm talking about the
on the
business,
financial
the
side.
company,
No,
the
yeah.
public. Like, the profitability is just vaporized, and it seemed like it happened overnight. And at the same time, you have this situation where these older Porsches are being so revered by collectors. So it's almost to me like a weird situation where the cars that Porsche already built are in giant demand.
Correct.
Where the new cars they're building, consumers aren't really sure. They made this big leap into electric drive,
Which is backfiring.
but now they're kind of backpedaling from that a little bit. And the China thing's not working out so well anymore. And, new Porsches are great. I mean, the new 911, my father-in-law just bought a Targa 4S. It's an incredible car, but it's a little bit antiseptic, right? It's a huge car. When you put it next to a
massive car.
1969 911, it's like, it
Sure,
looks
it's
like
twice the size. It's like
it
a
looks like
giant.
a semi,
Yeah,
right? Like it's giant.
correct.
And so it seems like the enthusiast market is really hyped up and excited about older Porsches, like, you know, 911s from the 80s, things of that sort. Even 90s 911s, the final air
Oh,
cars,
yeah,
right?
we just saw
Turbo S's.
record last week. Turbo
Yeah.
S, lightweight.
So you see that happening, but then on the corporate level, like Porsche's really in trouble. Like, look at the numbers. It's not good.
Well, I mean, I
And it
think
happened quickly.
we've heard of, I think, VW looking to shed the Bugatti brand, looking to shed some of these brands.
Well,
to get some
VW
capital.
has cash flow problems, right? Like,
Yeah, let's go into that, because you were talking about some interesting things about the power generation, or lack thereof, in Europe.
Well, I mean, I think that's a broader theme, right? I mean, clearly, you know, after Fukushima, Angela Merkel made this decision to get out of nuclear, right? And okay, at the time I get it, right? Like there's issues with nuclear, but the world needs reliable baseload power, right?
And we're seeing it.
And now, forget about back then, but now you've got cloud computing, you've got AI.
AI, data
You've
centers.
also got, you know, potentially if EVs do grow, you're gonna have that draw on the power grid, right?
Correct.
So now Germany's in this position where it's actually now buying power from France, which is like 78% nuclear power.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a hypocrisy, right?
Correct.
So I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, if you're a manufacturer in Germany, it's a lot more expensive because energy costs have gone up. Wind and solar, you know, when the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine,
There's no power.
There's no power. So it's an interesting dynamic. I think Porsche's problems are more related, frankly, to China.
Yeah.
And stumbling with EV. You know, there's all this stuff going on with the Mecum that's unclear, that they didn't have a car ready, that they were gonna go all electric, now they
Well,
want
that's
to
the
go
thing,
back to.
their depth of models is really lacking. But then you hear on the inside that we're also looking, you know, to shed some of the brands that they purchased, so.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
But
to see
a
what happens.
99% drop in profit in the last year, and now VW is bleeding red, and no free cash flow. Like,
No,
it's very interesting.
and that, add the tariffs on that they
Oh, well,
absorbed
that too, I didn't, you know, you got
last
into
year.
that, right?
Yeah, the tariffs have really impacted, like, even in our world. you
So
know.
let's pivot on that.
Yeah,
So we got Retromobile going on.
Correct,
We're
right now as we
launching
speak.
RM.
Yeah.
It's all going on right now as we speak. Let's just, I'm a consumer, right? I'm a guy in the US, I'm dying to get an F40. There's an amazing F40 that Gooding has or RM has or whatever. And I go over to Paris and I put my paddle up and I buy that F40.
Yeah.
Tell me what happens.
so.
Like, shouldn't I have just bought the car here in the States
should.
from you? Or someone else who
That's
had
the
one
most
here?
cost efficient way.
Like, walk me through, what
So
what
you
happens?
buy a car in Europe, well, let's just go to Retromobile, like you said, it's going on as we speak. So at the auctions, it's in there, it's about 12 to 15% commission on top of the hammer price.
Okay, so you got the juice,
Yes,
you got the hammer price, you got the juice, and then you got tariffs.
correct.
Is that
So
right?
then when you want to import the car to the US, you have the 2.5% duty, and if it's a Ferrari Italian car, EU, so it's a 15% tariff on top of that. So you're paying the duty and tariff on top of the hammer price, on top of the commission.
Interesting.
And sometimes, in some cases, you have VAT, so you're really,
So that's
the car becomes
that's a
very
real drag.
expensive.
That's a real drag.
Yeah.
On your,
It is.
you gotta put that into your total cost, and when you go to sell the car.
And you gotta get the car here. And to fly a car here today from Europe is about $25,000.
Is it really?
Yeah. Last year when the tariffs just hit, prices, you know, it took a solid 3 years for prices, airline prices to normalize. And they came down to about 15,000. Well, they started climbing back up when the tariffs were hitting. At the high point, they were getting 100,000 a car. And we left cars there. It was like, this is insane.
We're getting
Like, we're
October.
racing to get cars here, let's just wait and see. But
Put them on a boat.
yeah, well, the thing was, the car had to land before midnight, before the tariffs hit.
Right.
So-
So you had to get them out of there.
Yeah, and that's a whole other situation. That's still in front of the Supreme Court. And, you
Well,
know,
and they're right now deliberating whether or not tariffs are constitutional.
correct.
Like, I don't know.
And, you
There's
know,
there's a lot of complexity around there where the administration could actually, even if they did deem it unconstitutional, they could kick the can
down
for
the
3
road.
more years.
Of course they could, yeah. And say they get rid of the tariffs, they will only be gone on a go-forward basis. They won't go back retroactively and credit you. There's no way. There's no way
How are they gonna
we
account for
financially
that?
be able to.
Yeah, I
as a
mean,
country.
you need a lot of really good accountants to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we were talking yesterday, because you asked me.
How would that impact the treasury market? Think about that. Because the treasury buyers are saying, hey, actually this is a good thing, although it is a tax on Americans, and we're paying it.
It's creating
But it's creating a lot more revenue to the
Correct.
treasury, so that helps when we think about the risk of US treasuries, given our deficits we're running.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But, what'll be interesting to see is, look, we talked about this, we had a bunch, our phone was off the wall. I don't think I spoke to so many people in a week span of my life after Mecum. They did $444 million in sales in 10 days. Do you remember that was a year's worth of sales?
Well, more what I remember is Mecum, to me, as a enthusiast and a spectator, they were more about Camaros,
Muscle cars,
muscle
hot rods,
cars,
yeah, absolutely.
And now we're getting
he's
Enzos. Like, why wouldn't a Bachmann given that to RM to sell it at?
there was a
Pebble?
couple other auction houses that were trying to get in.
No, but why didn't that car go to Pebble? The whole collection.
Well, the Bachmanns also had Corvettes. That's how I first met the Bachmanns, because they had Corvettes, and they had air boxes, big brake cars.
Yeah.
They had sold those to Mecum before. And, I think they kind of had this in their planning when they passed, like, we already had this in our plans to sell the collection.
Yeah. So not to be all over the place here, but we want to cover a lot of ground here. We had a conversation the other day, and I went home thinking about it, that I mentioned to JR that I've never been a Corvette guy. I love the ZR1 in 1990 when it came out. That was like a game changer.
Yeah.
When I was 20 years old, and the ZR1 with that engine
Lotus.
and the wire flares and the whole thing. But we were talking about the split window coupe. Yeah. Right? And you gotta wonder, with this Enzo outcome, the prices on BAT, doesn't that move up the importance and relativeness of a car like that, how relevant it is? Like, the split window coupe is just stunning.
It's
like,
iconic.
if you just stop and look at the car, like, you have one out back, and I was looking at it the other day at your open house, and I'm just looking at it, and it's like, even if you're not a Corvette guy, that car, it's just a whole nother world.
So back in 2004, Automobile Magazine did a survey.
That was a great magazine, by the way.
Yeah.
They did cool stuff.
Remember magazines were fun? You actually read them?
Yeah.
So
I still read Sports Car Market.
that's it.
That's
the only one left.
With the magazine.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to have
Correct.
a real magazine, yeah.
But, so they did a survey in the 100 sexiest car designs.
Yeah.
And the C2, which is 63 to 67, got voted #1. And it said in there, similar to James Dean, Jimmy Carter, and JFK, the C2 left the scene at the top of their game. And it was really, the C2 was supposed to end in 66.
Did Jimmy Carter ever reach the top of his game?
Yeah, I know.
I think people in the 70s were leaving American hot air balloons,
correct.
right?
Yeah. So, that's another conversation.
We won't go there.
But it was really supposed to end in 66, but the C3 wasn't ready until 68.
So they kept it going.
So they kept it going. It's funny that the two most desirable of the mid-year Corvettes, what they're called, is a 63,
which is split
window, and then a 67, because you have the stinger.
So does all this stuff going on, should the average Corvette owner, let's say a guy who bought a split window coupe 15 years ago and loves it, like, is that car leaping up because of all this other noise in the market?
So it's interesting.
Because it's such a, like, Duntov, you get in the whole history, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Everything I know about Corvettes, I know about from him, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But, like, it just seems to me that a car like that is special.
It is. You could tell anybody about a Corvette, and it's the first question they say to you, is it a split window? Right. They don't even know the year, but is it a split window? So it is the most iconic Corvette of all time. And what I've seen is people that have big car collections. In there is a 300 SL going.
Yeah, of course.
A 63 split window, amongst other cars. But if they have a Corvette, they want a 63 split window.
Well, JR and I joke because if you look at, like, the really top collectors in the world, JR and I, we were talking about this, like, last year sometime at lunch, about how if you don't have an Alpha 8C, you're just not,
No.
you're not a collector,
No,
right? If you
exactly.
have an 8C, forget it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Sachs brought his to the Turtle Invitational in 2017, the new Volare car.
Yeah.
That
It's fine,
actually
right?
Baron Collier owned it before he did, but he drove it to the show. Just
Yeah, I
drove it
remember
down the road
Yeah.
and drove over to the farm.
It was unbelievable. He just parked in the field.
Yeah, like it was a rental car.
Yeah.
Right? He slammed the door.
Yeah, so I was talking
here.
to Ralph Kaufman 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about cars you have to have in a collection. An 8C is like hands
The
down.
car.
Yeah.
So what's so interesting to me about that is that's like early 30s, right?
Yeah.
Supercharged. I mean, when you hear one run,
Oh, it's
the whining
unbelievable.
noise, it's just incredible. But the span of the collectible universe of cars is so awesome. Like in
It
our
is.
industry, like you can have a collection with a car in the 30s up to, you know,
A lot of
Ferraris, to split windows, to, I mean, even I dare say, right, like Elon Musk's first car, the convertible, the
Yeah.
Roadster, is now collectible.
Yeah.
Right? People are.
You know, it takes you back to different periods of time, right? And that's why you have some of these other cars. It provides an experience of the technology that was at the peak at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see. I mean, you know, circling back a minute, going back to Mecum, and even RM this past weekend, I mean, we had record sales for Ferrari especially. Carrera GT had a record sale at RM, a sealed
That's a
gray
whole
car,
nother
which is
car.
like a great car, a great color too, highly competitive,
Sealed
sealed
gray.
gray.
Sealed gray.
About 64 cars in total, 2,000 miles. The CGT finally broke $3 million, and I had been saying for years that is the most underpriced car. And like, look, I love Ferrari, right? But for the past year, CGTs have been $1.5 million to $2 million, generally speaking. If I put a CGT in a 458 Speciale Aperta, which car are you taking home? I mean, it's a no-brainer.
No-brainer, right?
Yeah, real car guys are going to tell you, I'm taking the CGT. 10-cylinder, manual gearbox, open top. I mean, that is one of the best cars.
Also, it's kind of known as a death machine. Right?
It gets a bad rap. I mean, just because of Paul
They're-
Walker.
But they're hard to drive, right? Like they're not.
They're not that bad. Honestly,
Okay,
they're not
all right.
that bad.
I've never driven
No,
one, so I
they're
can't. I'm
not-
talking
honestly, they're
about something
just
I
once
don't
you
know
get to feel
about.
the clutch.
Yeah.
Most people instinctively want to give it throttle. Just no throttle, just ease off the clutch. But the power delivery of a car is insane. It's just the placement of the gear shifter, the handling. I mean, it's
all
German
just like-
engineering
at its best.
at its best.
Yeah.
Yeah, hands down, that is one of the best supercars.
Now
done.
those cars shot up, but then they recoil, right?
What happens
Like they
is
had a very
there's a
kind of
demand.
volatile.
There's a demand for them, and then when one goes at auction like it did, you're going to see a bunch of cars come out in the market. And non-silver stuff brings more, black, yellow, anything paint to sample. Obviously, Porsche is like that's a whole other segment, paint to sample. But they do kind of fluctuate. So look at $1.5 million, $1.6 million, they were way too cheap. You know, now that they have the new tires, the trailing arm recall,
What was the list price on that car?
it was $440,000.
Wow,
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
And that was back.
2004.
So
So
your
that
present
and Enzo both
value,
came out.
you present value that to today's value, like that is a very expensive.
It
car,
was.
even for a Porsche at
Yeah.
that high top
So I
level.
think that and Enzo came out at the same time, 2004.
Wow, what a pair.
Yeah, but
Gotta own them both.
But from an investment perspective, if you owned the Enzo and the CGT, the Ferrari just outpaced in general.
So, but here's the thing. Some of these cars, because I like to drive my cars, right?
Yeah.
Some of these cars are a little bit like, you know, an 83, you know, Chateau Margaux or an Aubryon, right? Once you drink it,
Yeah.
it's over, you have a bottle.
Correct.
Right? So if I bought a Carrera GT back then and drove it, you know, 1,000 miles
Yeah.
a year and it had 20,000 miles on it today, what's it worth?
Well, it's not going to be worth what the one just sold for, but
Right, so you have
Yeah.
to not drive these vehicles.
I know a certain amount a year. But what the great thing about some of the cars is most of the cars were kept and put away or drove very minimally
And maintained.
and maintained,
Right, like the
And-
Bachmann collection.
like the Bachmann collection. And now they have like 2,000 or 3,000 miles. Now you can go drive that car. You know, really.
So you're
my-
almost like delaying your gratification.
Correct.
Like you invested, you bought the car, you saw the appreciation, and now you're like, okay, I can drive it.
Yes.
A little bit.
So, but what's interesting, you know, we manage a big collection, and we had looked, and I think I told you this, about all the cars, right? Ferraris and Porsches, and we had built this collection over the past 10 years. And the Ferrari prices were like the equivalent of Nvidia
Oh yeah.
compared to Porsche.
Yeah.
Like Porsche was definitely a laggard compared to owning any Ferrari.
Yeah. Different level, right?
Yeah, I mean, you saw it at Mecum. I mean, the top 10 sales, we were fortunate enough to get one car out of there. We had the third highest selling car, the GT40 Mark II, which is unrestored.
Which is an
Amazing car.
You talk about
That's
that
a piece
little
of
bit.
history.
See, that's right, and that had patina.
It had patina.
Right.
All the other cars were
It was an
restored.
amazing piece.
They're all, one of them the Revs Institute.
Yeah.
So, but, in that top 10, 7 of them were the Bachmann cars.
Yeah.
And,
So
in my opinion.
that goes back to the very beginning, right? Provenance, maintained, perfection, low mileage.
Correct.
Check.
And collectors know that was their one chance in their lifetime that they were ever going to have to buy that car. Because chances are those cars are going
Gone.
into collections.
And they're gone.
And they won't be sold until they die.
Right.
And we saw this, and also Bachmann gets overshadowed by at Mecum in the sale. The Bachmann collection obviously overshadowed everything, but there was a big Yanko collection. Cliff Ernst, he was the equivalent to Phil Bachmann.
Huge money, those cars.
He had the best of the best Yanko Camaros.
Yep.
He very rarely sold anything. There's 2 cars come out of there. I got one for a referral of yours.
Yep.
427 automatic.
Yep.
But his cars did a record money. I hadn't seen those prices since the heyday in the
But again,
mid-2000s of Bear Jackson.
A known collector, a total pro, owned the best.
Correct.
The cars were maintained.
And you would never
all
have a
this is
chance to buy those
All
cars.
this is common sense, but I think buyers forget this sometimes, or they get so excited at an auction, they just buy the car. Like, I hate to pick on the guy who bought the painted Enzo.
Yeah.
But like, why would you buy that car? Explain to me, like, what?
You know why?
Was it a
Because
discount?
it sold for a big discount, but because he wasn't gonna be able to afford to buy an investment grade car, so he's like, let me just get my toe in let me dip my toe in the pool and get a piece of the upside.
But as I recall, when that car sold, it was all the money.
That car sold in 2024 at Mecum.
I just haven't, this wasn't the one that was at Pebble?
No, this is at Mecum in Monterey.
Okay,
in
oh, in Monterey,
yeah,
right, so
yeah.
it was at Pebble.
Yeah, it was at Pebble,
Mecum,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that car had been on the market for a while, so,
Okay.
we won't buy painted cars. I typically stay away from red Enzos, and if you recall,
Well,
we're
you
the
sold
only,
that silver.
we're the only dealer that owned 3 Enzos at once.
Yeah.
And
Well, this is really funny. So JR calls my office and says, hey, I've got this amazing Enzo. It's in Japan. I'm bringing it back over. And I'm not going to remember exactly. It was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And you were really nervous that you were overpaying for the car, but you were like, it's, one owner, it's a great
Correct.
car, it's this, it's that, check, I'm buying this car. And so my office arranged all the currency
Correct,
transactions,
yeah.
and it was really actually complicated.
it was, yeah.
Poor Andrea in my office.
You're calling, what are you buying? Yeah.
Anyway, we got the car landed, and I mean, what's that car worth today?
Yeah, that car today is in the 9 figures.
I often joke to JR, I'm like, what you should do is just buy and not sell a thing, but then you're not a
Exactly,
dealer.
correct.
Like, what are you gonna do?
I know,
You're
my
like
son
twiddling
says
your
that-
thumbs at your
My
office.
son says that all the time. He's like, I wish you could keep some of the Enzos.
The problem is, it's the age-old problem that Ray Dalio talks about, right? There's wealth, and then there's money.
Correct.
So like, your wealth can be accumulating, but you're gonna have to sell it to generate
some cash
money to
flow.
pay for
Yeah.
the things you need. So
Yeah.
you could hoard all these cars, but you won't have any cash.
Correct.
You need to borrow against them, I guess. But
Yeah.
Call,
you could do that
call
too.
Putnam leasing.
Yeah, exactly. Call Stephen Posner.
Yeah.
But no, let me get your input. So, just to tie this in a little bit, look,
Yeah.
we had gold's up 40%, silver's up 70%. This is just this month.
I know.
This is just, we are 28 days into the month.
Yeah, we are.
So, gold had crossed, it was $4,900 Friday, it's a $5,300.
Let's back up. This month in 2020, guess what the gold price was?
In 2020, $1,800 an ounce.
$1,500 an ounce. Here we are.
6 years ago.
So, look, there's a lot of things that move the gold price, right? Central banks manipulate it, okay? In Asia, there's seasonal buying, right? The Asian countries, they buy gold for jewelry, and it's seasonal, so there's actually pull. The production situation. If you listen to the earnings call of, let's say, Barrick Gold or Agnico Eagle, the smarter,
correct.
better producers with good assets.
Newmont, yeah.
You listen to Newmont, exactly. You listen to their earnings calls, and you but just take a Saturday and listen to the last 5 years. It's like this, right? The easy ore grades were mined when gold was cheap and there was no margin, right? Now you have all these environmental restrictions. So in South Africa, they used to just dump the tailings in a nearby river. You know, that ain't happening anymore, even in the depths of South Africa, right?
Correct.
And then you have power, energy, like the amount of power that's needed to generate an ounce of gold is staggering, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that cost is going up.
well, way up, and in South Africa, the power grid's so unstable that they're running diesel generators, so diesel prices are up, right? So it's like a dog chasing
Correct,
itself. So like,
correct.
what my point is if you listen to their earnings calls or the CEOs of the top gold producing companies in the world, you are not seeing a supply response that's gonna happen. So if every institutional manager in Midtown hit the
It's the
button
sell
and said,
button.
the buy button.
The
If I
buy
want to
button,
buy 1 ounce of gold for my large portfolio, I don't know how that happens,
No.
right? So you have the paper market for gold, the futures market, the
Correct.
options. Then you have the physical market. And we have weird things, like in 2008, when I was buying a lot of physical gold,
Yeah.
right? Which I still have, thank God.
Yeah.
But when I was buying physical gold, you had these weird dynamics between the paper market and the physical market. So there were days where gold went down in 2008, quite significantly, right?
Yeah.
But the premium to buy physical went up
Oh.
like that crazy. So what that was telling you is there was not a lot of physical in supply, right, in the market. Even though the paper
Wow.
market was going down,
Correct.
if you wanted to actually buy physical, you would pay a premium.
Correct.
That was higher than the normal premium, which is usury already.
Yeah.
Right, so that's how the dealers make their money. So I just think it's like, there's not gonna be a supply response to more demand of gold. It's very finite. Like the gold hasn't mined that much world. What we need is Elon Musk to capture a meteor that's full of gold from outer space and land it safely in
Correct.
the Mojave Desert.
Yeah.
And then we can mine that.
Yeah.
But I don't see it happening.
Well, and so we don't see it happening, so what are people doing? They're buying physical, tangible assets, which is,
Yeah.
I feel, is a contributing factor to the rapid increase in collector car prices, especially the investment grade collector car prices.
They see inflation, they see dollar devaluation, right?
Yeah.
They wanna own a real asset.
Correct. So
That's
these are-
rare, that's rare. So like the Enzo, how many Enzos they built?
They made $499.
Okay, that's actually a lot of cars for for low production. It's a
At the
high
time,
number.
it was about, at the time, they had a, that was, at the time, it was, for the whole
How
world,
many GTOs were made?
272,
How many real GTOs were made?
37.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's my point, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually a lot of cars.
Yeah.
But that car is rare, special,
Correct.
right, to all the things we talked about
Correct,
earlier in the
correct.
podcast.
Yeah.
Well, look, this has been great.
Yeah, this
Super
has
fun.
been great, so,
I have something for you. JR and I have been friends, really a decade now. I
It's
was
been that
honored to
long.
be your best
Wow.
man.
Yes, you
Yeah,
were,
go
yeah.
way back. I dragged him down here to Florida.
you did.
I got you out of the snow.
Yeah.
I live about a mile from here, and his showroom's here. But I wanted to give you something as a token of our friendship, and I have a note. This is more for JR. This is Charlie Jacobs' favorite champagne. It's a Ruinart. We have a common friend.
Yes.
I want to present you with that
Oh, wow,
to kick
amazing.
off of our podcast, and this is a
This
note
is
for
great.
you and Maris.
Oh, this is great, thank you so
It's
much.
the best champagne on earth, by the way.
This is, well, the note's
According
even
to
better. The note's even better, and this has been great, and I can't believe it's been a decade. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I were sitting at that table.
I know.
I was in Wallingford, Connecticut. I had just moved into my
He
second
was selling
building.
Ford Pintos in Vegas.
In Vegas, and replica Ferraris, yeah.
Yeah, Fiero conversions.
But it
that's
was,
roasted.
you came up, and I think the first ride I gave you was an SLR McLaren,
Oh, God.
and I think your feet went through the floor as you were,
I needed a diaper change.
as we
after
were
that
biting
one.
pavement to 130 miles an hour
Yeah,
outside the driveway.
the car was biting pavement at 130 miles an hour.
Yeah,
And
that
he's
was-
a race car driver, so I felt sort of safe.
Sort of saying, and then you bought an R8 that night.
I bought your R8, which
Yeah.
I still have. It's
Still
a
to this
great,
day.
by the way, an undervalued asset. Those
V8,
cars,
R8,
V8 R8 is a great,
Hands
it's
down, the
the
best.
it's the purest
Yeah.
expression of that car.
that's one of the
So,
best values too.
When are we back?
I think we need to come up with a schedule, maybe do this weekly
Okay.
in the season while you're in Florida before you go back to New York. This is great, and I think you and I give a different insight. Like I said, 99% of the dealers and experts in this industry only know the car industry.
Right.
I grew up in the car industry, but worked in finance, so I take a different approach and insight to the collector car space.
I think it's a huge advantage to have
Yeah.
that perspective.
No, and it was,
Because it's all related, right?
Agreed.
It's all, and it's even more related now than
Yeah.
it has been in the past.
and I think you have a mixture of both. I mean, obviously you have your own investment company, you're a personal car collector, you're in the equestrian world, so you really got a good read from everybody, from every circle of net worth, and to the insights of the economy as well. So it's really, this has been great, and I look forward to doing our next podcast.
Great, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Stay
Thank you.
tuned.